Hey, Mark, what's our next topic?
We got to move on to the Boston bomber.
The Boston
Miranda
bomber.
rights. His Miranda rights.
And we're talking about the Chechens in Boston.
Yeah. So what happened?
Amongst
okay,
us.
the Miranda rights were put together. You know, as an understanding that there were some of the seminal cases where, the guy was slightly, mentally challenged, I guess is the word for it, and he was interrogated and they got him to confess, and so, or faced with violence or beating and beating people into confession. So that's what Miranda rights are about. The Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination is constitutional. The Miranda is not. Miranda is a
it's a created.
It's a created what you would say a precedent, but it's not really a constitutional right. But what Miranda is supposed to protect is against a coerced confession based on the totality of circumstances.
Yes.
Okay, well, first of all, let's ask a simple question. Is Miranda a conservative or a liberal doctrine?
Oh, good question.
What do you think, Dan?
I was just asking myself.
I know. I was kind of curious what your opinion was on that.
I don't really remember. You have to look at whose administration did it come up under and what was on the Supreme Court. What year was it?
It was the crossover between Kennedy and Johnson, because I believe it was in 1963. And the idea was to protect the rights of the innocent that Marx described. And what's interesting, if Miranda's basically, if you're in a custodial position, whereas the cops, the police, as just some of us, and what puts you into a patrol car, puts you into any space where you cannot leave, and then they want to start asking you questions.
Yeah,
that's classified custodial.
That may not be custodial. Let's say we're in the police station right now, right? And I'm saying, okay, you're, would you like to go out and get a Coca-Cola or something like that, right? And you go, no, thanks. You've just waived custodial. You could have walked out, but you didn't. You waived your right to custodial.
I have heard that argument.
So there's hundreds of ways you can get around that warning.
But what it was supposed to be was, if they're going to start questioning you and you do not have the freedom to leave, and that means the coercion that we mentioned a moment ago is the fact that you are stopped from departing that location. Then they begin asking you questions that involve what you've been involved with related to a crime or some conversation that could lead to your confession to committing a crime or admitting facts that you wouldn't want to admit normally.
So what happened on this Boston bomber case? How did we get into this?
Well, the story was the guy's in a bed, in a hospital bed. So was he being detained? No. Anyway, they're questioning him in the bed. And, for hours, right?
Well, they had 16 out of 48 hours.
Yeah, I think they had 16 hours.
16 hours of questioning by the FBI.
The FBI special team was questioning for 16.
And what I read is that he had asked for a lawyer repeatedly. I don't know if that's true. That kind of makes it seem...
No, he never asked for a lawyer. That's the FBI have that.
That's what you think.
No. That's what and he was not asking for an attorney because he was talking right away because he was talking, well, not right away because he had to come out of it.
He's a 19-year-old kid. Yeah, well, right, so you would expect him to be talking.
And we're not waterboarding him.
Right.
Okay, so what we have here is that, okay, there's certain paradigms here. Okay, so when he's in the hospital bed, he could be or could not be in custodial interrogation. I would say maybe that's 16 hours when you're interrogated. Yeah, it could be considered custodial. I mean, there's a bunch of cops around.
But it wasn't all in a row.
Right.
They did it over a period of several different interrogations.
Right. Okay, so partway through this interrogation, and they were getting a lot of information.
Oh, lots of information.
A federal magistrate comes in and reads him his rights, gives him his Miranda rights.
Was the FBI told they were coming?
I'm not aware if they were or not.
No, I understood that the FBI wasn't told that the federal magistrate and a district attorney from that district had come in there and surprised them in the middle of an interrogation set, and they were told, stop. And they immediately read him his Miranda rights. They brought in a federal public defender, by the way, as well. It was not just 2 people, it was 3 people, plus their entourage of various federal workers, but it was the judge, a DA, and a public defender.
I didn't know it was a federal magistrate, but just as an aside, if a Superior Court magistrate showed up, the FBI, said, get out of here, right? The FBI doesn't take orders from state government.
But
right?
no,
But
they
that's-
were
that's-
ordering the FBI around. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
The
Well, they
FBI,
can't,
were told
yeah.
to stop
If I
Okay,
was-
right
so,
now.
so anyway, Jay Carney.
Anyway, the point is, the kid got Mirandized.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
And he shut up.
And I'm saying this is a really good topic for discussion because it's right on the edge.
And then Jay Carney, as like one of the folks on TV, he said that civilians.
Press secretary.
Okay, yeah, you see him on TV once in a while. He says he says U.S. citizens cannot be tried in military commissions. And so he said that's the reason he got Mirandized, because he can't be tried in military. So that was the legal, from the administration,
Well,
they came up and said, hey, you can't try a U.S. citizen in a military commission, and so that's why he had to be Mirandized.
Okay,
Now,
but they were trying to classify him as an enemy combatant. This is the deal. There
But
was
the thing
a
is,
toss-up whether he's
no,
an
but the thing
enemy
is,
combatant
you
or
could-
he
but
is a U.S. citizen, but that doesn't mean he can't be an enemy combatant.
That's true.
Especially when he brings terrorist acts to the streets
Okay.
of Boston in
was
the middle of
clear-
the Boston Marathon.
Okay, so
Clearly
you
was
can be
a terrorist act.
It was a terrorist
but
act.
you can be an enemy combatant without being tried in a military commission.
Of course.
That's true as well.
So,
But he can also- you don't have to be Mirandized.
But there was, so here we go. And so looking at it, there's a couple different things. If you're an enemy combatant, you could be subject to intensive interrogation.
That's
No
correct.
real limits.
That's not what we're talking about.
And yeah, that's true.
Well,
But we're changing the subject. So if he were an enemy combatant, and there was even an iota, even if there's one chance out of a million that he might be connected, like say to Chechnya, Russia, or someplace where there was terrorists, and maybe the Russian KGB or what do they call it, the security services informed the FBI that these guys had terrorist connections. Like say there's one chance in a million of that. Of course, that didn't happen here. I mean, it's impossible because these guys were self-radicalized. These guys were self-radicalized.
What I think what we ought to do on this is
juvenile delinquents. Pretty much,
I
is what they
think
were.
right now there's so much that we don't know about this yet, about what really happened. We only heard the press side of it, sort of it. This is what could have happened. But I think what we have to do is, I think it's time to move on to our third. But Mark, I don't normally do this, but I want to say we need to recover this in a longer segment because I think it's critical to really understand how this is going to play out on this federal magistrate or whoever it was with his DA and public defender coming in, shutting him up, and who ordered that. Right. That's what we should be watching for. Right. So what's our third subject?
Wait. I'm sorry. Here's the most important point of this whole story, is that on the side of the Miranda, okay, the reason it's a sensitive issue is because when you don't Mirandize and you're getting information, you are jeopardizing your evidence and you're jeopardizing your case. And it's an important case. Everybody wants this guy to be convicted.
Okay, let's move on. Even
well,
though
that had to be said.
Well, there was
That's
like
the important
15
thing.
tons of evidence.
They already had enough evidence to convict him right now before they even asked him one question. They were asking about on the outside.
Yeah, okay.
Mark,
okay,
what's our third subject?